Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Skater Girl. Skater Girl is an Indian drama that tells a story of a girl named Prerna, a teenager who lives with her family in a rural village in the middle of the state of Rajasthan. Due to her family living in the lower end of the social caste system in her neighborhood, she doesn't have access to as much financial resources as she would like, which leaves her having to drop out of school and help her family make ends meet by selling peanuts at a marketplace, and even then she struggles to make money doing that. Prerna can't seem to find a way out of her circumstances until she happens to cross paths with a foreigner named Jessica, a British Indian who's touring her village to learn more about her own family history, and through one event after another, she introduces Prerna to the art of skateboarding. She slowly but surely picks up on the sport and finds freedom in a new hobby that helps her escape her otherwise mundane family life, which angers her more conservative-minded father along with the rest of the community, which sparks a central conflict of the story, this idea of one group against many. For some reason, this movie reminded me about Double Dab when I was watching it, which is a Brazilian movie that I watched and reviewed earlier this year. Although this movie is not quite as family-friendly compared to that one, this movie's main characters are just as innocent and likable. Prerna is one of the most pleasant main characters that I can recall watching from a movie at least this year. She starts right off the bat just wanting to have the same education as every other girl in her town, but she's not able to afford a new uniform, and so she has to drop out. Her brother Ankush attempts to make her feel better by stealing a uniform and trying to give it to her, but she is having none of it and forces him to return it back where it belongs. We instantly feel sorry for her as a character because she just wants to go to school like everyone else, and within the first few minutes we know that she has a good heart and doesn't have one evil bone in her body. Even though she comes from a lower caste compared to other members of her community and her family do not support her dreams at all, she doesn't let that reality stop her from trying to live a fulfilling life, and she knows that she has friends that she can depend on whenever she experiences doubts along the way, and it's these traits that make her an amazing character from the outset. Jessica was also a good fleshed out character in this movie and a great role model for Prerna to have. It was interesting to see how their individual backgrounds paralleled each other's as the story unfolded. Like with Prerna at the beginning, Jessica starts off not really having any sort of direction in her life. She goes to the village with the vague notion of trying to learn more about her family history, specifically her father, but she doesn't really know where to start. And she does plan to apply for a job promotion that she's been offered, but we know deep down that that's not really what she's interested in. As she spends more and more time with Prerna and the other kids in the neighborhood, as well as bouncing off business ideas with her American friend Eric, who happens to be in the area, we start to see her passion slowly unravel before us on screen. And it was so satisfying to see her finally answer the call to action by deciding that she was going to help build a skate park in the area in spite of community pushback. Her role as a female entrepreneur is believable, and her motives just make her that much more likable as a character. If you can't tell by the way I'm talking about this movie, it oozes charisma. It has a near persistent happy feel-good tone to it, and although there are some serious issues that are covered in its story, it never gets to the point of being overbearing. Even though it was a fictional story, it still felt real in the way it was told. It was fascinating to see how the kids made do by making their toys out of little things like pieces of garbage and scraps of wood, and how amazed they were at random things that we take for granted, like with Jessica's iPad. And even though these kids have very little, they don't seem bothered much by it, which puts things in perspective for me as a Canadian, and it makes seeing the smiles on their faces when that skate park is finally built that much more rewarding. Speaking of that, that's probably something I should get into more, the whole skateboarding part. The tricks that are shown in the movie are pretty basic, but it's still fun to watch the kids try and pull them off. Don't go into this movie expecting to see 1080s or rail grinding or any other sort of fancy trick like that. There are pro skaters in this movie that show a few cool moves here and there, but they're not really the main focus of the story. The main point of the presence of skateboarding in this movie is to bring together kids from different castes and just let them be happy and have fun together. And that's the sense that you get from this movie, is that it's just a very fun, happy time to experience. Although the movie has a dark theme behind it regarding family dominance and conservatism, it never really lingers on it too much. The movie makes good use of montages of the kids laughing and playing and just having a good time together that helps keep the mood from being too depressing, and it's all uplifted by an amazing soundtrack to boot. However, I mentioned the dark theme behind this movie long enough that it's time to start talking about it, along with the other things in this movie that I personally thought to be a bit flawed. Prerna's father, to put it mildly, is a complete douchebag. He never supports her in anything she wants to do and is always blaming her for his failures. And his douchebaggery just kept escalating from there. Like, he flips over his plate of food in the middle of an argument like a spoiled child, and then he hits Prerna once or twice in the movie because he supposedly saw her doing something that she wasn't supposed to do, and he does something truly despicable to Prerna at the end of the movie. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind having an antagonist in the story, but her father was just so stereotypically awful to a fault, and the way he does a complete face turn near the end of the movie just felt so cliche. Another thing I found cliche, though something I didn't have as much of a problem with compared to Prerna's father, was the whole foreign savior concept associated with Jessica in this movie. Now, I don't mind the fact that she's introducing kids to skateboarding and she's trying to help build a skate park because nobody else in the community has the money to build one. That's all well and good, but there's little logistical things that she does during this whole process that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. About a third of the way through the movie, she buys skateboarding supplies for every kid in the neighborhood, ranging from the board itself to the wheels and all the nuts and bolts that help the things go together. I have no idea how big that international shipping bill is, as well as the receipts for all those things that she bought to begin with, but I would imagine that it is a lot. It makes you wonder, just how was she able to afford building the skate park to begin with? We don't really get any knowledge of the whole money thing behind it all. There is a little bit associated with a politician that lives in the area. I think she was called the Queen, forgive me if I'm wrong, and Jessica barters with the Queen so that she can use the land that she owns in order to build the skate park on it. But outside of that, we have no knowledge of all the logistical stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and I would have really appreciated to know just what kind of money was going into it. Overall, though, Skater Girl is an inspiring, if simple, piece of joy that does some real life good for the state of Rajasthan. I was so pleased to learn after watching this movie that the skate park that the filmmakers built and filmed in specifically for this story was actually donated to the community after they finished. And knowing this, combined with how warm and fuzzy the ending made me feel, it just left me grinning from ear to ear. If you're looking for a truly happy, feel-good experience and you don't mind a few tonal inconsistencies here and there, this movie is definitely for you. Although there are a few negative issues that affect its presentation, it still remains largely positive throughout, and it provides a sobering perspective on how much, or perhaps how little, one needs to be happy. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Skater Girl. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review Headspace's third collaboration with Netflix, Unwind Your Mind. Bye bye!